So I just got back from Rhinebeck, aka New York Sheep and Wool, and all of the indie events on Friday. I have so much to tell you. Here, I'm going to give you a quick little sneak peek. This is one of the bags I brought home. And yes, I say one of, I think this is like half the yarn I brought home. It was a lot. But needless to say, I was there for 5 days and there is so much to tell you. Hello and welcome back to the Knit Life Oils YouTube channel. So today we are talking all things Rhinebeck, and there is a pile sitting around me of all the things I brought home with me, and I have so many stories to tell you. So grab your whip and settle in because I think that I have a lot to say today. Okay, so I left for Rhinebeck on Wednesday, which is October 15th. And the reason that that matters is because that also happens to be my birthday. Now, I was a little bit sad about having to fly across the country on my birthday because it meant that I was going to have to be alone like the whole day. And I got to see my mom for like half hour in the morning. I made her get up and take me to the airport. But what I didn't imagine is because I'm the most extra person ever, apparently. And so I wore my bright pink birthday girl sash to the airport. And TSA was so nice to me. If you are ever worried about TSA, my pro tip is to wear a birthday sash because they were so excited. Like, it was the easiest experience I've ever had at TSA, which was so funny. And it made me so happy. And then I went to one of the coffee shops and they were just as excited and they were looking at my knitted sweater I was wearing and they're like, I can't believe it's your birthday. Anyway, it was a great start to my morning. And then my coworkers were blowing up my phone and it was so great because I didn't have like people right next to me. So it was super nice to like have them support me from afar. And that was really fun. So the flight there was pretty uneventful. And then I got to the Newark airport and I was like, okay, I got this. No problem. My mom was a little bit concerned about me because, I get a little bit like, oh, everything's fine on my birthday. And it was totally like, whatever. But the Newark airport was a challenge. At one point, my sister said to me, didn't you get off the plane 2 hours ago? And I was like, yes, I did. So, yes, the Newark airport is very large, and trying to navigate and get my bags and then get to the rental car was quite the adventure, and it took a little while. But thankfully, I didn't have stuff to do that night. I just had to get to the hotel. So I finally got to the hotel. I was very exhausted after my marathon in the Newark airport. So I just had a birthday dinner in the hotel bar. It was a chicken burger. It was pretty good. But I knew that we were going to celebrate my birthday like the whole weekend. And I was going to get like candy and stuff because cheesecake's my favorite. And but I like other sweets and candy too. So I knew we'd have that further into the weekend. So Thursday, my plan was to stop by some yarn stores on my way up to Rhinebeck, which is about a 2-hour drive from Newark. So I first went to Do Knit, and I was super excited about this because I have seen lots of stuff about them online, and I was so excited to go there in person. The first thing you notice when you walk in is that the floor is pink, and that made me very happy. And I was like, this is really cool. So the owner wasn't there, but 2 of her employees were, and they were amazing. Immediately, one of them was like, you're traveling by yourself? You've been alone for so long. And like, that was when it kind of hit me that like, I had been alone for what felt like a very long time at that point. And so, it was super nice to like talk to them about things in the city and about Rhinebeck and the events that were coming up this weekend. I did grab a couple things there. So something that was really interesting is that they were talking to me about Spin Cycle. And I see Spin Cycle a lot because it is a northwest-ish, West Coast based company. So we have a lot of Spin Cycle. But I don't always get it because it looks variegated to me and I can't tell what it's going to do. But they were showing me these projects that they had done, and this variegated actually makes a gradient And that made me really excited. So this is one of their exclusive shop colorways. It's called Across the Universe. Do we say it ew or ew? I don't know. I don't know. But so this is one of their shop exclusive colorways. And I'm actually really excited to find something to go with this and put it together and let this be the gradient. Then this is Moondrake. Now, I've never worked with Moondrake yarn, and they were really excited about that to like show me something that I hadn't seen. And it was half price, which I can't even with half price yarn. Like, if the yarn is half price, why not? So, I got a skein of this also. So that was a great stop trip. And then I kept driving, and I was very curious if it was going to be different between New Jersey and New York. And I kid you not, like, crossing the state line, like, it completely changed. The trees were different. The buildings were different. What was there was different. It was totally different. And New York is beautiful in October. And I don't normally say things like that. Like, I'm very much the yarn and community girl. Like, I'm not the pretty places out in the world, in the outdoors. That's the word I was looking for. And so but it was very pretty. I could definitely appreciate that. And it was great. So I made my drive up, and you have to cross this bridge to get into Rhinebeck. And I crossed the bridge, and there is this sign, and it is very sheepy, very Rhinebeck, and I was like losing it. I was like, the sign, it's the sign. Clearly I had been alone for a very long time at this point. And it was just so cool. I couldn't believe that I'd actually like gotten there. Like, the sign was there. It was super cool. So then I got there and I set up our booth. And then when I was done with that, I had watched Nitty Natty's video from last year or the year before, a couple years ago. And there was a candy shop in actual Rhinebeck, like the town of Rhinebeck. And I decided that I needed a candy stash for the weekend. So I went into the town of Rhinebeck to Samuel Sweets, and I picked out some stuff. And okay, so this is really funny. The people at the candy store, I was trying to explain what I was there for. And I was like, well, Rhinebeck. Oh, wait. I'm standing in the town of Rhinebeck. And so if you call the festival Rhinebeck, now it is very confusing because the whole thing is Rhinebeck. And I was trying to explain it, and the guy goes, oh, the Sheep and Wool Festival. I'm like, oh. This is why the alternate name is New York Sheep and Wool, because if you call it Rhinebeck in the town of Rhinebeck, no one has any idea what you're talking about. But I thought that was very comical, because in the rest of the country, we call it Rhinebeck and we know exactly what we're talking about, but in the actual town of Rhinebeck, not so much. The town was really cute. It very much reminds me of downtown Pocatello, Idaho, which I visit when I go visit the studio. And it doesn't look that much different to me. It's a couple streets in a small town, and it's nice, and it kind of looks like a Hallmark town. So I was trying to figure out what to do. Some of my friends were trying to like prep stuff and get things together, and I noticed that Yarn Farm Kingston is open until 9, and it was only like 15 minutes away from my hotel. And I apparently just needed some more social interaction at that point. So I went there, and it was amazing. Jocelyn was there, and I met one of her local regulars, Ellen, and we had a great talk for like an hour and a half. And she handed me this book by Norgon, and it's called Knitted Cable Source Book. And I was enamored. Like, the first couple chapters, I was like, oh yeah, okay. This stuff is the normal things I've seen. And early on in my knitting career, I was really into cables, especially Celtic cables. And Melissa Leitman, I took some classes with her and things like that. And I haven't really been inspired by cables, like, in a long time. And so I got to, like, the 5th chapter of this book, and I was just like, oh, look at this. And look at this, and look at this. And I'm like, I'm taking this book home. And so then I was like, oh, I want yarn because I want to make a swatch that's what I did when I fell in love with Celtic cables. And I have this swatch on my wall and it has like holes in it because it's so old. And so I got yarn to make one of the swatches in this book. Let me see if I can show you just the picture of the cable. So this is the cable I'm going to do in that yarn to make that swatch. And I'm kind of excited to play with this cable some more. And I did get yarn needles because I wanted the whole thing, but they didn't have a ball winder. And then I was like, oh, I guess I'll deal with that later. And then I just never dealt with that later because I had so much going on. So, but I am definitely going to do that. And I'm super excited to do that. So huge shout out to Jocelyn and Yarn Farm Kingston because they made my night. And at the end I was like, okay, I need to go find some food. And Jocelyn looks at me and goes, where are you going to eat? It's like after 9 and we're in Kingston. We're not in a city. And I was like, oh, is that, I'm like, well, I can eat at the hotel bar. And she's like, is that even open? I'm like, I don't know. So they had some food stashed behind the bar that they have. And so, they fed me the most amazing white bean chicken chili. And I was very thankful. Because yeah, apparently we need to eat at a decent hour. So anyway, okay, that was Thursday. I was so excited for Friday. Friday was the day I had been waiting for. That was all 3 indie events. I had tickets to all 3. So I got up that morning and I hadn't put my whole outfit on together. And it was everything I could have imagined. It was one of my favorite outfits I've ever done. And my friend Maggie from Yarnacious had told me that I should wear my birthday sash to Cake. And that we would just have a birthday party at Cake Palooza. And so I did, and it was super fun. So you walk into Cake Palooza, and all of the rumors, I guess, are true. It is in a parking lot. It's the parking lot of the Yarn Dyer Cake, their dye studio. And so the parking lot kind of goes around the building, and they've set the vendors up there. It definitely did not feel crowded. I expected it to feel very crowded, and it wasn't. It was a lot, there was a lot more space around me than I expected, which was great. It was easy to talk to people. It was a fun environment, and it was just a great way to start the weekend. So I started at the Fangirl Fibers, Yarnacious, and Pacific Noodle Co. booth to see Maggie, Jamie, and Emily. And let's see. So Erin made this for me. I was super excited. And then I was looking around, and my sister had picked out yarn beforehand that she was really hoping Maggie would have. And so this was the one that she picked. This is Tears to Shed and Maggot. It's one of her special collections. These are not my colors. It was really funny because I was showing Maggie the pictures of like all my yarn at the end of the day, and she's like, that one doesn't match. She messed you up. I'm like, I know, not my colors. That's okay. So the other thing that she had was, I walked around the booth and I was looking at things, and I go, Maggie, and she comes over, and she had made hat bundles, or is that what we're calling them? Hat bundles, with 50-gram skeins of colors to every one of Taylor Swift's albums. And so this is Lover and Paper Rings, and I'm super excited. I actually think I'm going to make that. I think it's called the Volcanic Hat. Something. It has this really cool color work, and I was looking for things to do with it, and I thought I needed colors similar to the pattern, but I actually think that these are going to work great. So that will work out perfectly. And then Fangirl Fibers made new bags. So I have one that says, Long Live All the Magic We Made, with Castle on it, and it's what brought my 7 Skeins sweater back to me at Flock. No one can convince me otherwise. So I got a new one. It's You Belong With Me, which is one of my favorite Taylor Swift albums, which is Fearless. So that was super exciting to get. And then I had to get the new exclusive thing from Pacific Doodle Co., which Pacific Knit Co., that is not the name. Pacific Knit Co., who does the doodles. Jamie has a book, and this is the whole deck of all of the charts in the book, and it had just come out on Tuesday. And of course I need all of the exclusive things. So that was a little bit about that. And then I walked around. I got to see this cake wall where they like painted it and take pictures with it. It was really nice. I met some really cool people who took pictures for me. And then I went to Wool and Vinyl. I had been waiting. I follow Wool and Vinyl on Instagram, and one of my friends and I open her advents together a lot. And so I couldn't wait to see her colors in person. I got to meet Rachel, which is really cool. Not to mention we were wearing very similar skirts, and I was very excited about this fact. But then I had to actually pick what I wanted. And let's see. So, this is Day Tripper, which I knew I was getting. She had been showing it while she was dyeing it before, we left, and I couldn't help myself on that one. This is Break My Stride, and it's more orange than it's coming. There we go. That's a little bit better. I just love colors like this. And then I kind of knew I was getting this one too before we went. Hotel California. It has a lot of the blues and purples that I usually really like. So that was great. I have way too much to say about about Cake Palooza. Oh, that was the thing I was going to say. So when I was waiting in line to get in, which it was not a very long line at all, they were handing out prizes they were just throwing yarn at people. And I was wearing pink because that's the color of the event, and Maggie had warned me to wear pink. And so I got a really cool skein of yarn, which kind of matches me perfectly, and they were handing it out. There's no label, but I kind of think it's from the Cake brand, which is great, and I'm excited to play with that. So, okay. So when I say I kind of threw myself a birthday party at Cake Palooza, I am really not kidding. There were, edible glitter cupcakes. And so Maggie and I went over and got them, and I got to pick them out, and then we all ate them together, which was super fun and exciting and made me very happy. So then as I was throwing my birthday party, one of the girls from Robin's Promise Yarn Co., which was like kitty corner to Pacific Knit Co., came over and she says, "Oh, it's your birthday. Happy birthday. I have the perfect yarn skein for you." And I was like, oh goodness. Okay. Where is this going? And she walks over and she literally just drapes this over me like this. And I can't even tell you what this feels like to have a skein of yarn draped over you like this. Like, you feel like a queen. And I'm like, I don't know that I've ever felt like this before. This is crazy. So, and first she did the DK one, and I was like, oh, okay. How many yards is it? And she was telling me that stuff, and then she goes, well, I have one that's cashmere. I'm like, oh, of course you do. But the cashmere is figure weight yarn, and it's 2,100 yards, so it's 500 grams, and it's 5 skeins of yarn, which is enough for me for a cardigan. And the kicker is that this colorway is called Happy Birthday. And so there's a lot of speckles in it, which I really enjoy. My mom couldn't believe it. She's like, do you like that color? I'm like, I don't have any cardigans in this color. All of my cardigans are blurple, and I have one pink one. So otherwise, so this is a totally new color for me, which I think is going to be great. I actually really want to make another one of these, which is called the Girlfriend Cardigan. It's garter stitch, so it's a little bit squishier, and it has these faux seams, which I think will be really cool in this. So anyway, that is my happy birthday yarn necklace. It's super cool. My mom's like, you walked around like that? And I'm like, absolutely. Yeah. Anyway, and the last thing I did was I stopped by Asylum Fibers, who is Stephanie, and I met her at Vogue in January. And I think one of my favorite things was she said to me, "Where are you from?" And I was like, Portland, Oregon, which is what I say when I'm farther away. I'm technically from Vancouver. I live in Vancouver, but Portland, Oregon is just easier for people to identify. And she looks at me and she goes, "For the number of times I see you on the East Coast, that is not the answer I was expecting." I'm like, no kidding. The 6-hour flights are a lot. So, but I had a really good time at her booth. So this is called Age of Aquarius, and it is a solid teal, and it's kind of looking more blue right now, but it's a little bit better. I'm really excited to do something with this from the cable book. Cables a lot of times, especially complicated cables, will look better in solid color yarn, and so that is what I went for with getting this. And then we've been giving away a lot of my knits lately, which is my idea. I have way too many knits that just sit in the closet, and this reminded me of one of our 4-year-old friends, and so I brought this, and I don't know what I'll make, and I don't know if it's actually going to be for her, but it just reminded me of her. And then this was a colorway that was like a part of something else that I kind of stole, and she's like, you can have it. I'm like, thank you. I'm like, I need this color. Look at how pretty. It has lots of like purples and pinks kind of hidden in the like paler blue, which I really love. So, okay. That was Cake Palooza. I stayed my entire 2-hour ticket. And really the only reason I left was because my Indy ticket was only 2 hours. And so I needed to go to Indy and go there also. It was only 4-minute drive from Cake Palooza to Indy, which was great. Oh, and so the parking at Cake Palooza is street parking, but I knew that going in. And so I just found an easy spot and then walked like a block or two over, and it was no big deal. Then I drove over to Indy, and they have plenty of parking at Indy Entangled, and so that was not a concern at all. The vibe at Indy Entangled was very different because the 3 buildings were all spread out. So there was not as much of a big group altogether. It was more spread out and more almost like maybe like a holiday bazaar, that there was more space and things like that, but it was a little bit harder to find like my friends. Like you could be in one booth and they could be in the other building, and you wouldn't really see them. The buildings had been saying about a 5-minute walk, and so you can see the other buildings from the building that you're standing in, but they are a little ways over. So yeah, so that was fun. I got to meet up with some of my friends. Gabby, who I'm going to see in a couple weeks at the Amazing Threads retreat in Minnesota. And then one of my first stops at Indy Entangled was to see Casey of Casey Knits. So I've been joking with her that I see her a lot, but I don't see her yarn a lot. She lives in Florida and does things on the East Coast, and so I've never gotten to see her yarn in person. And so I went straight for her. It was her first booth. I was like, Casey, it's your first booth. We had such a good time together. It was really fun to celebrate that with her. But I knew that I wanted these 2 skeins. So this is Galaxy and this is Nebula. And I kind of like them together. She's been doing some stuff with them together, but I don't know if that's what I'm going to do yet. Maybe some kind of a cowl or something. So, I had pre-ordered this box, and so I went to pick it up. It's a lot smaller than what I thought. I apparently did not read the dimensions online. I thought it was going to be bigger so that I had more room to put stuff inside, but that's okay. So then as I was walking around, I found this booth that was new to me. I'd never heard of them before. So it's RMR Yarn Co., which is Rocio M. Ramirez. And it was one of the brightest booths there. Like bright colors, bright, all the things. And of course, that is my vibe. So I found these new friends. This is called Carnival. And I was just drawn to it. And I felt like I was going out on a limb and getting something different than my normal rainbow vomit, as everyone calls it. But I couldn't leave the rainbow vomit there. So I ended up getting them both. But this is a new to me yarn brand, and so I'm excited to get to like play with it and see new colors and things. So, okay, that was Indy Entangled. And then one of my friends had a friend named Jessica, and she wanted to go to Indy Entangled, but her group wasn't going. They were going straight to Wool and Fair. So she rode with me to Wool and Fair, which was great. Wool and Fair was a little bit farther away. It was like 20 or 30 minutes. And my lovely GPS took us all the back roads in New York, which is an adventure. It's just very windy and there's a lot of trees. So we got there eventually. The parking was a little bit more challenging than the other venues. I had bought a parking pass prior, but there was still a little bit of a wait to get in and sort everything out, but that worked out okay. It was also a little bit hard to find the right entrance. There apparently was multiple entrances, so we kind of just followed the people and ended up in the right place in the end. And so then I got there, and you kind of walk down this hill, and then you kind of just descend on this thing, and it's very much a vibe. Like there is like twinkle lights, and there was the most vendors at Woolin' Affair than the other events. So there was like 70 vendors, I think, at Woolin' Affair. And my friend Emily from our virtual knit night was waiting for me, and she told me later that she got there early so that she could shop quietly, because she knew once I got there it was not going to be quiet. I was going to be running and screaming and hugging all of my knitting celebrity friends, and she was very much correct. So I got there. One of the first things I did was I went and got a lobster roll, because I saw that that was one of the foods that they were going to have, and I couldn't wait to try this. I've always heard about it, and I like seafood. So the lobster roll was good. I was a little bit confused because the lobster was cold, and I was like, oh, well, that I did not expect. And then I found out later that they warm up the roll. So the roll was warm and the lobster was cold, which was kind of confusing and not what I expected, but it was good. So anyway, then I started kind of to get my bearings and figure out who I needed to see and all of that stuff. And I just kind of scoped out the aisles to see who was there and that kind of stuff. We found Laura Nelkin pretty quickly, and I got to introduce Emily to her. Emily's in her club and was really excited to meet her, and that was a lot of fun. And we were standing in this booth where we found Laura, and I was like, ooh, this is a pretty color. And I'm like, I'm always drawn to boucle, but I never know what to do with it. And Laura's like, you could do my mystery knit along that starts this week. And I'm like, I was thinking about that. And so this is the color that I had picked. And I found another one, and it was very rainbow. It probably looked pretty similar to this one. And I was like, Laura, can I do these? And she's like, can we not do those in the same project though? And I was like, oh. My sister was like, please tell Laura thank you for me. Oops. So we picked out 2 of this so I can use it for the main color, and then this is my contrast color. So Laura Nelkin picked out yarn for me for her mystery knit along, which I'm super excited about, and that will be really fun. What else did I get at Woolin' Affair? Let's see. Oh yes, this is what I got. Is this the only thing I got at Woolin' Affair? I was apparently too busy screaming. Which is totally fine. I got to meet Denise, who is Earth Tones Girl, and we've been talking online for a couple years now, and I was really excited to get to meet her in person. So that was fun because I found her, and I got to say hi to Carson and Patty, and Erin from Yarn Matter, Andrea the Knitting PT. All kinds of people were there. But Fiber MacGyver was definitely there, and I got some yarn from her at Flock, and I was excited to get more. So I have definitely been on a Musselburgh kick for a couple years now, and these are called Musselburgh hat bundles, because of course they are. And we have this one Musselburgh that's in mini skeins that my mom, my sister, and I are kind of fighting over right now, and so I'm going to make another one, so hopefully everyone will stop fighting, and I can get one. We hope. We kind of trade it back and forth. Okay, so, yeah, that was kind of the end of Friday. It was a long, busy day, but it was so much fun. I had the best time. And the atmosphere was just everything I imagined it would be, and that was amazing. So then we get to Saturday. So on Friday at Woolin' Affair, I saw Olga from Gotham Knits, and we realized that we were staying at the hotel, and she's like, can I ride into Rhinebeck with you? And I'm like, yes, please. I never get to spend enough time with her. She's an influencer on Instagram like I am, and it's always really special when I get to spend time with those people who understand that side of my life. And we had a great time on the way in. We stopped at Starbucks. We found a Tractor Supply store because everyone needs one of those on the way to Rhinebeck. And we made a reel together, and we just literally laughed the whole time. It was the best start to my day at Rhinebeck. So then I knew that the beginning of Rhinebeck was going to be very busy. And I stayed in our trunk show booth in the CC's Wool booth, which was the best thing I could have done. I got to meet all of the fans of Twice Your Cheap, and they were so excited to see me, and I soaked that stuff up, and it was so good. And I had stickers I was handing out. And then some of our virtual Knit Night girls got to come, and we got to meet in person and hang out for a few minutes. And it was great. So then I got out of the booth, and one of the things that I had been a little bit concerned about was being able to find people at Rhinebeck, because I had a lot of friends that I wanted to see. But I know that there is 30,000 people. How am I supposed to find my friends in this crowd? And sometimes the cell reception is spotty. And so how do you make sure that you get to see everyone you want to see? So one of my strategies was my gelato cardigan. It is super bright colors, and a lot of the other sweaters are like fall colors or more muted. And so I literally walk out of our booth and I start walking down the hill. I have no idea where anything is. I am just like walking somewhere at this point, and I'm like calling out landmarks to my friends. They have no idea what I'm talking about. And the yarn dyer for Junie inside comes up to me and she goes, I could see you from all the way over there. And I was like, oh good, my evil plan is working. You can find me. So people found me all day, which was very helpful. Because I had no idea where I was at any given point. So that was awesome. And so then I ended up pretty quickly on the hill, as they call it at Rhinebeck. It would be very helpful if it was actually labeled the hill or something, because we all get a little bit confused as to what it is. Like, they just need a sign in the ground that says, like, the hill, in quotes, or whatever they want to do. But, yeah, it's a little bit confusing. And then at certain points, the hill does get really busy, and then other points it's completely empty. So that was kind of interesting to see. And then you're not really sure if you're supposed to know the people that are on the hill or if you don't know the people that are on the hill, and it's very confusing. But I did get to find some of my friends, Samantha from Bobble Clubhouse, who we call Hannah Montana because we work for other companies in the yarn industry and for ourselves. And so we flip back and forth and we call it Hannah Montana. So it's always really fun to catch up with her. And then I got to find Coley on the hill, who is Pasley Knits, and she had been waiting to see my gelato cardigan because it's her yarn. And so I got to show it to her and spin around and show it to her friends, and she was like just standing there petting me for a little while, which was totally fine. It's your yarn, do whatever you want. And I loved that so much. And she's like, I think this is the most epic thing anyone has ever made in my yard. I think that was like a highlight for me that I was very, very excited about. So yeah, that was great. And then I did a lot of, we'll call it running through the streets and screaming. I would be walking to different places, and I was with, my friend Emily from our virtual knit night, and, I would whisper to her, I'm like, okay, we're going to scream again. And then I'd scream whoever's name it was, and they'd scream it back and go and run and hug each other. It was very fun, but yes, it's hilarious. I love it though. So I got to see, Paul, who I met at Vogue this last year, and that was, super exciting. I was hoping I would get to run into him, and I did. And then I got to see Melinda from Alchemy Fiber Mill, who I met at the Patty Lyons retreat in April, and I definitely didn't know that I'd get to see her, and that was great. And then we found Jamie and Erin from Pacific Knit Co. So Erin, we made an exclusive tin for Rhinebeck at Twice Your Cheap, and I had showed it to Erin the day before, and she looks at it and she says, he needs a name. And I'm like, okay, because we name a lot of our things, and it makes us happy, and they look like they need names. So she goes, Steve the sheep. I said, okay. So his name was Steve the sheep. I was telling everyone in our booth this, and everyone would go, I need a Steve the sheep. And then they'd take one home with him. I'm taking a Steve the sheep home. Okay. And Erin says to me, I didn't name him. He just told me what his name was. And I was like, okay. Which was hilarious. So anyway, yeah, there was a lot going on at Rhinebeck, but it was so fun. I should have been exhausted by the end of the day, and I was not. I was just hyped on energy, and I had adrenaline running through my body, and it was great. So everyone had warned me that it takes a really long time to get out of Rhinebeck, and I'm here to tell you they were not wrong. It took me 2 hours to get out of Rhinebeck, and I left at like 5:30 because I went back to our booth for a little bit, and it took me 2 hours to get back to Kingston and to dinner. So it was a long trip out of there, but I had dinner with Sandy and his mom, who we have decided her name is Beth, even though we just call her Sandy's mom. And it was really nice to just chill out for a minute and things like that. And I had been kind of waiting all week to have my birthday dessert, and they had sundaes there. So I got an ice cream sundae with Swedish Fish, Sour Patch Kids, and rainbow sprinkles, and I was the happiest person. It was amazing. So then Sunday was the last day of Rhinebeck, so I collected all of my things, and I somehow got them all to fit in my suitcase. I have no idea how I did that, but props to me. And so then I got to the fairgrounds on Sunday morning. It was definitely calmer than on Saturday. There was not as many crowds. There was a little bit more space to kind of spread out and talk to people and things like that. And so my friend Emily brought her family on Sunday, and I found them in the Morehouse Farms booth, which Morehouse is, has a sheep farm next to the fairgrounds. They're like less than 10 minutes away, I think. And, I met her in New York in January, and I'd heard a lot about her from my different friends. And so it was really nice to meet her. But Emily's daughters had elephant purses. And I was like, you're kind of making me feel like I need an elephant purse. And Erin says, well, there's elephant backpacks. I'm like, what do I need an elephant backpack for? She goes, well, he holds 4 skeins of yarn. And I'm like, oh. And then I was like, well, I really want that color that one of her daughters had. So she made me my own teal elephant backpack kit. And I need this elephant backpack so badly. So this is my next, I have a couple things I have to finish for my trip in a couple weeks, but then this is the next thing I am making, because it is, I'm just so excited about it. Sandy saw it and was like, this is perfect for you. You realize that, right? I'm like, yes, I do. So that is my shining star. So I did get yarn at Rhinebeck, the elephant backpack. And then I got these from Morehouse too. I don't typically go super sheepy on my yarn because I like the softer and fingering weight. So this is sport weight. And so this is a teal. It's not green, by the way. You could actually probably call it green, but it's not really green. And then I got these minis to go with it. I asked Emily if they matched, and she was like, well, if that works for you, then sure. So we'll see how it goes. So that is my sheepy yarn that I got from Rhinebeck. And then I went to my friend Allie's booth, which is Road Trip Sock Yarn. And I kind of been looking at some things all weekend. And so I got this, which is called Nashville. And I'm going to Nashville this year. And so I'm really excited to make something with this to wear in Nashville. And then I'm very much a fingering weight yarn girl, right? But for some reason, Allie had this bulky weight yarn that was calling to me the whole weekend. And I don't know if it was the colors or the softness or what, but for some reason, I was just drawn to it. So this is what it is, and I already made a hat out of it. This is the Amortensia hat, and it just fits it so well. And look at how cute this is. I'm obsessed with this hat. So cute. So this is my Minnesota hat because apparently it's cold in Minnesota. So there you go. And so I made an appropriate hat to wear, which will work out perfectly. Anyway, oh, and then I had to pick out pom-poms. And so my blue pom-pom goes with it. And I got a pom-pom from my sister. It's brown. I said it wasn't very pretty, and she said it's beautiful. I said, okay. So anyway, and then, so I was getting ready to leave. I had to leave about 1 to get to the airport on time. And, I have been working with Jessica from Double the Stitches for a couple years now, and she runs the Knit Happy Summits, and I've done some collaborations with her and things like that. And she sent me a message. She goes, hey, are you still at Rhinebeck? And I was like, yeah, for another 30 minutes. Are you here? Because we always like barely miss each other when I'm in New York. Like it doesn't ever quite work out. And so she goes, yeah, I just got here. I'll meet you at your booth. And I go, okay. So I rushed back and I got to meet Jessica. I was so excited. Her and Dawn, the owner of Twice Your Cheap, have been friends for a lot of years. And I felt so bad that I got to meet her in person first. And I was like, I'm so sorry. But it was so great to meet her in person and see her. And it was the perfect way to wrap up my trip. So then I got back to the car, and it ended up being like almost a 3-hour drive back to the Newark airport because there was some traffic and things like that, not getting out of Rhinebeck, but on the freeways and stuff. Yeah, so that was an adventure, and the Newark airport was not great that day. It was taking forever, and TSA was probably the worst experience I've had with TSA. And so, yeah, that was not fun, but I was still running on all the adrenaline, so I was okay. And so I got home on time. It was a 6-hour flight home, but that worked out just fine. I will say what was really funny is, so the day after was Monday, and the adrenaline crash was so real. But it didn't happen on Monday. Monday I was fine, and I was like, I'm very confused. There's no screaming or people asking me questions or anything. Like, what am I supposed to do today? Like, I'm so confused. And I missed it. I was like, oh, this is so weird. And then Tuesday, the adrenaline crash hit. Like, I could feel it, like, draining from my body. And I was like, oh, I think I'm tired. Which was really funny. So, anyway, I hope that you really enjoyed that little peek into Rhinebeck. I had such a great time, and I'm going to have so much fun turning all of this stuff into projects. There is tons of yarn sitting around me right now. So I hope you are having a great day, and I will talk to you soon.